Thank you for your time. Okay, selamat siang. That's the bahasa I'm learning now. And thanks for all your time to come here. And before we really start our panel discussion, I want to know how many of you have been to China before? Or more than half. How many of you have been talked to Chinese investor or investor from China? Half of the half. How many of you have been talked to Chinese entrepreneurs from China? Little and little. Okay, I think today is a time for you, after our panel discussion, if you want to discuss more questions, you want to ask more questions or discuss with our GQ and Mulyono, I think this is the time for you. And if you have any of your friends who are outside, call them, come here now, okay? Let's begin our panel discussion. And I get the topic is, oh, sorry, have you introduced yourself? Oh, I'm too excited for the questions. Sorry. Can you get your introduction?
Tes. Hello. Selamat siang. My name is Mulyono. I'm Indonesian from Aceh, not from Java due to the name. I born and raised in Aceh, but I actually spent almost 15 years in China. 5 years ago, came back to my home country, and since then I'm doing my own startup. Prior to that, I was in few tech companies in China, such as Huawei, Alibaba, and few others. Also doing some kind of investing activities a few years ago. Now my company is doing a merchant SaaS, and we are, I think, in the leading position of that industry right now in Indo. And very happy to see all of you. Hope we can have a really good chat. Thank you.
Yeah, JQ, please.
Hi, I'm JQ. I lead investment at emerging markets at Alibaba International. So we cover e-commerce outside China. And for us, obviously, as you can imagine, the focus is e-commerce, right? We are talking about vertical marketplace and all the key layers of the e-commerce value chain. And we are fortunate to invest into leading GPs like East Ventures, and we also do direct investment in the region. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, JQ. So the first topic under our main topic is bridging culture and markets. So the dual perspective of Chinese and Indonesia tech landscapes, from no matter JQ or Mulyono in the investment or in the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So I want to ask the first question to Mulyono. What unique insights can you share from your decade of experience, like your 15 years in China, working in China's tech industry, that can be applied to Indonesia?
I finished, so I spent my studies time in Hangzhou, where, it's the place Alibaba started the business. Myself got very attached with the startups, the internet, the digital economy. And I think the passions and the way people thought how digital economy, technology can change the society, the business, is the fundamental, how, if you looked at the past 20 years, how those industry really revolutionized in China. And I think that's very, very important part for us in Indonesia to really, take the essence of it, not only thinking from the practical way of doing it, but also the fundamental to believe that Indonesia can get benefited from the infrastructure layer change of the digital economy and technology. I think that's number one. Number two, I think a big part of what China had went through in the past 20 years is also kind of happening here, but in a better way, or it's even accelerated faster than what happened in China. We can learn, we adapt locally, but also at some point have our own way, right? Our ride-hailing players emerge more than what Chinese ride-hailing players emerge, because we see, learn, and eventually adapt faster than what it is. Our e-wallet player also did the same thing. E-wallet started in China probably 2012, 13, raising fast. Ours is only like 2016, but the whole process is just accelerated faster. So I think first, the fundamental belief of what digital economy and technology can change. Second is, we learn, adapt, and eventually emerge faster.
Okay, thank you, Mulyono. And from his sharing, the second point of his sharing, that it's like a time machine theory, that 20 years happened in China is faster here in Indonesia. But I want to ask GQ, as an investor, from your observation, what the similarity and differences between the tech landscape in China and Indonesia in the past decade? Thank you.
Yeah, I think I agree with Molo, right? So you can call it a time machine, you can call it pattern recognition, right? So especially when entrepreneurs think about what they should do, what they can do, and pitch to investors, it's always good to start from the high level. We have this business model in US, China, Japan, Korea, India. Perhaps we can do something similar in Indonesia. I think that still applies. But if I pick up one thing from the previous session here, the executives turn into entrepreneurs. I mean, it's always interesting when you actually, I think the example they used in the last session was to SEM in Facebook, right? Once you actually put things into action, there are just 1,000 details you need to figure out. And then you suddenly realize there are so many assumptions you take for granted, but things are a little bit different in Indonesia than in the other places. And all this add up, things can be very much different. So one example is e-grocery, right? So I think in China, people take things for granted, but here in Indonesia, in terms of the delivery model or the price sensitivity, I think that's a very different level for good or for bad. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, JQ. So from the two questions just now, we understand some basic landscape of China and Indonesia. Then the next topic is about cross-border collaboration. So after we understand the basic, we see how could we collaborate with each other between China and Indonesia. So the first question I will go to JQ also. Given Alibaba's extensive experience in various markets, what are some strategic outcomes or milestones inventions for investment in Indonesia?
I think one big thing we learn is we are part of the ecosystem. So one example also I want to, going back to Mona before, is the e-wallet example. Because e-commerce still today, I think, takes up a significant share of all the e-commerce cash delivery, right? So Alibaba was fortunate enough to invest into one of the leading e-wallet companies in the country, and that actually are very complementary to our e-commerce business. I think that's the example of we bringing the technology, we bring the know-how, but we are not the one-stop solution, right? We need to partner up with the local champions, and through that win-win collaboration, everybody wins. And it's not only in economic sense, but also, I guess, the users or the society, they can benefit as well. So I think that's the thing we are looking for.
Okay, talking about collaborations, there are always language barriers, cultural barriers, or a lot of other barriers. So I want to have a question to Mulyono. What role does cultural understanding play in successful business collaboration between Chinese and Indonesian?
Yeah, this is a very interesting topic for us because we have engineering team set up in Hangzhou, and our business team, marketing team, sales teams is actually in Jakarta. So in our first year, it's a crazy culture clash issue. Even one of our co-founders left because of this. But eventually after, I think, a year or so, we kind of found out a pattern on which part has to be managed of which team. For example, in our case, product has to be on the user side. So product managers
in Indonesia.
In Indo, right? The technical side could be in China. But what very important on this process is the SOP and documentation, right? Even if the product side is already from Indo, but if we don't have a strict process of the documentations, especially for all of you that familiar with the engineering process, it will create a lot of issue and it will create a lot of inefficiency of the communications. So I think the culture issue first layer is how we work together, and I think the understanding of which parts will have more influential will be the first step, and then the SOP, the process, the documentation in between also very important. But we cannot avoid to say that culture understanding, it's not something that you put on the wall. It's something that you really need to understand. And I give you an example. It's very small thing that are the Indonesian and Chinese is fundamentally different. How we eat, for example, KFC.
Nasi.
Right? So it's unbelievable that we eat KFC with rice. But for us, it's all normal, right? But for Chinese, like, what is that?
Okay, sorry, same question for JQ. Like, what role, the cultural understanding for you when you do investment in Indonesia or in China, what role does cultural understanding play in successful business collaboration between Chinese and Indonesia firms? How do you think? Thank you.
Yeah. So on that, actually, I do have some thoughts on, because we have Lazada on the ground, not only in Indonesia, but also in other countries in the region. And I guess that's something we can also learn from working with people across functions, right? So one key thing I learned is you provide background information in a succinct way, right? Just assume your colleagues, right, either they're from a different cultural background or different functions, they know nothing. They know nothing about your project, however important it is. As I always find that's very important. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but in the end, you'll find the results will be much better in the long run. So that's one of the key lessons I learned.
Okay, thanks. And at this point in time, I may ask, do you have any question from the ground? Or, yeah, I may have time to open one or two questions for all of you. Anyone, hands up? No. No. Okay, so we continue. Just now we are talking about the first topic is about landscape. The landscape in China, the landscape in Indonesia, and what the difference, what the similarities. So the second topic is about collaborations, cross borders, Indonesia founders and Chinese founders, or the Indonesia founder have experience in China for like 15 years. I spent 17 years in China as a Chinese, but 15 years in China. Yeah. So the next topic is inbound requests from Chinese founders seeking opportunities in Indonesia, especially after COVID. I cannot say after COVID, especially after 2022, because in China and outside of China, the different definition of after COVID. So after 2022, from my side, we saw a lot of Chinese investors, entrepreneurs come to Indonesia, come to Southeast Asia. Flights by flights. Seriously, I have friends from Shanghai. He told me that the whole flight, all investors in 2022 to Singapore, to Indonesia. Then in 2023, in 2024, there are more and more founders. So I may have a question to Mulyono. What are the major pain points in Indonesia business landscape, so that what advantages do Chinese entrepreneurs have in finding opportunities in here?
Chinese founders find opportunity in here.
Yeah, Indonesia.
Okay, I think like what Yifu said, 2022, 2023, 2024 is crazy amount of numbers of China mainland's people coming down. 2022, 2023, I think the biggest reason is because of TikTok. You can see most of them coming, to become a seller, to become an MCN. I think it's, of course, there's still others, but I think that's the main reason, that they see a new trends, a new opportunity that Indonesian market might not understand yet. So they have, in Chinese, call it Hongli, right? It's a gap, time gap of the benefit that, if you looked at it, in the early days of TikTok Shop, most of the sellers is Chinese background sellers. Most of the Indonesian or global brands doesn't even give to even try. They don't have the budget, they don't understand it. It gives almost at least a year and a half window. So you can see that a lot of new brands came out in the period of time 2022, 2023 that basically has a Chinese background. And I think that's the opportunities of what Chinese founders see in Indonesia market. 2024 is different game. Could be the same different people, but it's different game. I think most of us in the room knows what happened with TikTok Shop in the end of 2023. And starting into 2024, it's not the benefit anymore. It has, the cost, everything, increase and all. 2024 mainly driven by, I will say, China condition itself. Most people come out, it's doing an elimination process, like, okay, I need to go overseas. What countries, which place I should go, do the math, do the basic fundamental research, and usually Indonesia is on top of it, right? So people come with all the curiosity, and the basic macro is the opportunities that most of the Chinese founders looked at, right? The demographic benefit, the supply chain opportunities, and all that. So I think it has a different purpose, it has a different objective through time to time for the Chinese founders looked at Indonesian market. As in pain points that you ask, I've been living many years with China environment. I don't think they see any pain points. I think they see opportunities compared to the conditions that they are having in their home country, the market, how they call it juan, right? I think.
Sorry, could you give a definition about juan?
I don't know how to define it. It's, if maybe Darius can help. It's super competitive, is easier way to put it. It's super competitive in their home country. So for them coming here, at least the first impression for most of the Chinese founders coming into Jakarta, they will think, no pain points. It's, hola, I'm coming. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Then go back.
Then,
Some.
Then different story, right? Yeah.
Okay. And same topic, but different perspective from an investor side. What are the key opportunities you see in Indonesia for the Chinese founders? And whether they can stay here to be the next unicorn, or they will go back? How do you think?
Yeah, I think for all the same reason, the rising GDP per capita, the sheer population, right? That's all the opportunities, and that's why they came here. But I guess there is one thing the entrepreneurs, be it Chinese or other nationality, they realize is you cannot focus on numbers per se. I guess cross-border, that's one of the great example, because initially what people see is you have this cost, you have this selling price, and there is a big margin, and we do cross-border, and everyone's happy. But if you look at things in broader perspective, you don't just focus on numbers, you don't just focus on your own enterprise or startup. You can see sometimes you do need to see from the government's perspective, right, the whole society. So what can you do? Obviously, localizing manufacturing, that's no easy task, and nobody wants to do it. But in the long run, if you want to make your growth, or let alone your bottom line sustainable, that's at least one of the key tasks you need to do. As a matter of fact, we investing to a cross-border B2B company in Indonesia. Founder is Chinese, been in Indonesia for more than 10 years. They cover like 60,000 mom and pop shops here. They are also considering encouraging their Chinese suppliers to localize manufacturing facilities here in Indonesia. Initially, I don't think the investor get it. Me personally, I think that's extra work. But given everything that's happened in the, let's say, last 12 months or so, I think that's exactly the direction, not only Chinese entrepreneurs, but all the entrepreneurs, if they want to be really successful in Indonesia, at least that's the direction they should seriously think about.
Okay, I continue with this question. I want to follow up with JQ. In the past, maybe 5 years or after 2022, which industry are the most worth investing in Indonesia? and why?
Yeah, so that's an interesting topic because we mostly are interested in e-commerce, but I do see a lot of interesting sectors. Me personally or Alibaba cannot invest at this stage, but let's say for the EV two-wheelers or even one day four-wheelers, healthcare, those are very exciting sectors to invest into.
Okay, and the question to Mulyono, how do demographic shifts in China and Indonesia impact consumer behavior? Because just now you mentioned that TikTok and the sellers from China, but all the consumers or all the buyers are locals. So the question is, how do demographic shifts in China and Indonesia impact consumer behaviors?
I don't get the questions. How demographic shifts impact?
Like how the local consumer behavior change from before TikTok, after TikTok?
Okay, before TikTok and after TikTok, I'm not the best one to answer due to my age and but I do see a big change of how we call it new middle class receive and perceive news and brands, right? I think it gives a lot of, structurally, it gives a lot of new opportunities for products, brands to tell their stories, to tell their content in a different way to a new class of consumers that getting into the age or the time that they can start spending. Not in the, I think the biggest change of what, to be honest, I don't want to put it as only TikTok. I think it's actually started from the Instagram kind of a era, right? And I believe it's comparable to China's Xiaohongshu, right? How the new class of the new middle class perceive of brands. So I think it's a big opportunity for people like us that the incumbents usually is not ready to new format of media, to new format of storytelling, that a new products, new brands can grab the opportunity first. So that happens not only from product or brands perspective, but also for the local services, including F&B and everything. In the old days, there's no need for restaurants to create content. But if you think about it today, or even if you are selling banh mi, the better you create content, the better your business is, right? So I think it creates a lot of opportunity, but also new challenges. Whoever that adapt to that will get the business first.
One deeper question, how to adapt for all the founders here?
So I have this problem, right? My team, some of my investors is telling me that, Mul, you should create content. You should, start building
Personal IP,
right?
Personal IP.
But I have no idea of it. And at some point I hate it. I have to think that as part of my job, but I'm not good at it. So I think how to adapt it's a question to everyone, but whoever that adapt it fast will get it. I'm learning, I'm trying my best, but it's not one formula for everyone. I see a very, very good founders that create a lot of contents that build the trust and to bridge between them and the customers, right? And the partners and all that. I think it's very, very important. There's no formula, but everyone has to try it.
Okay, thanks, Mulyono. And okay, so from the ground, any question? Okay, please.
So it's a question for both the panelists. I just came back. Oh, thanks. I just came back from China. China has very, very talented people. A few years ago, I tried to recruit them. Nobody wants to come. Now there's a nagging feeling that a lot of people want to get out of China. So 2 questions. One, is that true? Do you feel that there's a lot of talent who is seeking to get out of China? Number 2, if so, what are the best tips you have for recruiting senior talent to Indonesia, and is that even a good idea? Sorry, very specific questions.
Yeah, sure. So I think I was actually surprised because given a big country, right, has over 1 billion population, if there is one singular answer, I think there is something wrong. So I think now is the normal, right? A fraction of them, they are born adventurers. Some of them, they are on the edge. Now they have a little push, for better, for worse. I think that's a good thing for China and for Indonesia, and hopefully for your company. So that's the answer to the first question. And secondly, I think I know there are a lot of specifics, but generally I would say they're all human beings, right? When you think about new opportunity, I mean, especially if you are talking about top talents, they do pros and cons, right? I'm sure you have paint a picture for the pros, but when it comes to cons, I think a few things I can think of. So the family, right? The onboarding experience for their, how they navigate through local life. For example, do you call a ride-hailing company or do you stick to a taxi company? Things like that. But I think they are big boys. If they are, not big boys and big girls. And if they are top talents, you think they are the ones you want to recruit. I'm sure they can figure things out. But a little use from you personally, a little personal touch, I think will go a long way. I think that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
First question, yes. I mean, we've been recruiting ourselves for the past 3-4 years there, right? So it's different. It's totally different conditions when we talked to them 3 years ago and now. It's totally different, right? So yes, the eagerness, the understanding, everything, yes. Second, I'm echoing what JQ is saying. It's really the personal touch. You make sure that it's the right person, because it's senior, it's the cost and everything is there. But because of the past 20 years, China, quote unquote, proved the startups, everything works. So you just need to tell the proper story, sell them the dreams. I believe most of them understand it. It's just, I think there's a big effort you need to do on this if, again, the underline here is that you are sure that this is the senior talent you need. Otherwise, I think the cost at some point, it's horrifying as well. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for everyone. Thanks JQ and thanks Mulyono. I think we are running out of time. And yeah, this is the end of our topic. If you want to discuss more, you want to talk to more investors from Alibaba, or if you want to talk to Mulyono, or I'm from China, if you want to talk to me, feel free. Let's talk later. Thank you.
Thank you.